Welcome back to my channel. This is Brownsugar Commentary and I'm your girl Kayla. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe for more videos. Okay, first things first, I want to apologize because it's been like a good minute since my first video. I think I want to say it's been a month. I've just been trying to figure out my setup and YouTube and what editing software, all that jazz. So bear with me while I iron out those details. But anyway, let's just get into the topic for today. I want to talk about one of my favorite things, which is music, specifically R&B music. I love R&B. I grew up listening to it. I love talking about it. I love making lists and rankings of albums and artists. I love watching videos about people making rankings and lists about artists and stuff. So I wanted to answer the question, or try to answer the question, is R&B good nowadays, and is R&B dead? I see this on social media a lot of people saying stuff like R&B doesn't sound the same anymore, or like R&B was better in the 90s, all of that good stuff, and I just be sitting there like, girl, man, people, do you not own a streaming platform? Because it's the way that if you did, you wouldn't come out your neck to say such blasphemy. You would not. Because we over here on the R&B tip, okay, and if you have Spotify, okay, like I do, they have playlists like every week. Like literally they have a new playlist every week. Like there's different types of like R&B playlists. It is a R&B buffet. Okay, we are eating. Like if you're really sitting there depending on the radio to give you good R&B, you're going to be disappointed because it's never going to happen. It is literally never going to happen for you, okay? And I can attribute that to, like, you can say something like that like way back in that weird period between like 2008 to like early 2010s when like R&B was almost next to non-existent, or like there was R&B and good R&B happening, but like it was usually like one person every couple of years that would come out with like a good song or a good album and they just disappear off the face of the earth. Or like most of the R&B artists during that time were just you know, like there were like people who were making music or known for R&B music, but then they were making like a lot of pop music, like Usher, Beyonce, and like Neo, just to name a few people that did, like, for example. But like we're out of the dark ages now, okay? And you know what? It's not even like good R&B was even happening during that time, because it sure was. We were still eating, okay? It probably wasn't like a buffet. I'll say it's more like a cute little entree, but it was nonetheless good music, because one of my favorite artists of all time, who was Jasmine Sullivan, okay, came out during this era. And I remember the other day someone was saying like, oh, we deserve Jasmine Sullivan, or we failed Jasmine Sullivan. And I was like, y'all failed Jasmine Sullivan. I did not. I listened to every single one of her albums. Where was y'all at? Where was y'all at? Because I was there. But yeah, like Jasmine Sullivan, Miguel, Melanie Fiona, Seven Streeter, just to name a few folks who were coming out during that weird, murky area. But like, I just named you 5 artists right there that gave you good albums during this era. Like, so it existed. It's just for some reason it just wasn't, people just wasn't checking for it. And I think also it was that time where I think like the 2010s were trying to find its sound, because I feel like every decade has a certain sound, right? And I feel like because no one can really, there was no definitive sound that summed up the 2010s, because I don't think anybody could find it. Because like I said, there wasn't enough people to make like a, to like really like define that decade, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of artists disappeared. Like most of the people that came out in the 90s and 2000s, they were in bad contracts, so they weren't making music anymore. Because if you've watched like any biopic about a black musician, you know good and well how many black people end up getting into these bad contracts, and it's really because of these predatory labels who target black people, especially black people from poor areas, knowing that they don't have access to lawyers, knowing that they don't know legal jargon, and then they get in, you know, they just sign stuff like, oh, if you just sign, you're gonna, you know, your life is gonna change, blah blah blah. And it does change, but then after a couple albums they end up being bankrupt or not seeing a lick of their money, going on tour, doing all these things and still broke, or they get dropped from labels because labels don't care enough about them. So I feel like a lot of people got caught up in these bad contracts, hence why a lot of like your favorite artists from the 90s, early 2000s kind of like disappeared during this era, or they're like the time they were making music was very spaced out, like it'd be like years between albums. So yeah, R&B was kind of on life support, you can say, but not dead during this era. You feel what I'm saying? And like nowadays, like I said, as of like 2014, we have been eating, okay? Music has been amazing. And it's not gonna sound like the 90s, y'all. It's just not. Like I just said, every decade has its own sound. And finally, we have found our sound from this era, okay? It's not gonna be New Jack Swing, y'all. The 90s was 30 years ago. Half of y'all are grown. You're not even 90s babies no more. Y'all are grown with 401ks and children of your very own. So I don't understand what it is. I feel like it's just human nature to crap on the previous generation. Like I just think people just do that as human beings. Like I'm sure people in the 90s were like 80s music was better and 80s people were like 70s music was better. That's just what people do. I don't know why we do it, but we just do. But to sit there and say that like this today's music is not as good or bad or like everyone sounds the same, it's like that's still how I know y'all ain't listen to these music. You're not listening to the music that's being produced. Especially last year was some of the best years, or some of the best year for R&B. Like, you know what I mean? So I just think that it's crazy. And you know what? If you don't believe me, I'm going to give you 5 of my favorite albums from the past year, 2 years, 3 years, give or take. Okay, but these are my 5 favorites, and if you go and listen to them right now, you will be convinced. You have to be. If you don't, I don't trust you. But let's get into it. Number 1 is Painted by none other than Lucky Daye. Okay, Lucky Daye is what I like to call my music soulmates. Okay, and when I say that, I mean that the first time I heard him and the first time I heard his music, I said, this is it. This right here is it. Where have you been all my life? How can I hear more of it? Like, what is this? Like, I heard him on some girl's Insta story. It was Rose Mo. I'll never forget. I heard them strings and I said, who is this angel? And I researched him, and like he only had like 2 EPs at the time, and there were only like 8 songs between the 2 projects. I was hooked. I was hooked, okay? And then he came out a couple months later with Painted, and I said, this is art. Hang this up in a museum because it's art, okay? The category is transitions. The category is versatility. The category is just good music, okay? You listen to that music, you could tell that each song was it's like well calculated, very well structured. Every song flows seamlessly into the next. D-Miles' name is his producer. He did what has to be done, okay? It's like you can't even listen to those songs out of sequence. Like sometimes I have like his music on other playlists, and I'm just so tempted to listen to the album because I can't listen to those songs like by themselves anymore. I have to listen to the album, and that's how you know that's a good album. Because like I said, they don't make albums like that no more. I will say that. Some albums, they just don't do it like they used to. But Painted reminds you that good albums can be made in today's time, okay? It's a beautiful album. Top to bottom, no skips. None. No skips. There's the way that there are no skips on the album. It is crazy. It's just beautiful. It's like Lucky Daye is really good at like having that traditional sound but giving a new flavor. Like he don't sound like nobody that you ever heard before, and his music is a good like infusion of funk music and soul music and jazz. Like, oh my goodness, the way that they use like instrumentation in his music is just, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. I love that album. It has a special place in my heart. It came out on my birthday, okay? So you know it had no choice but to slap, okay? So do yourself a favor and stream Painted. And there's a deluxe version that just came out, or it came out like in May to celebrate the year of the first album like coming out. But it's like all his like latest singles, so if you want to get caught up on what he's been doing, listen to the deluxe version because it still slaps. It still slaps. Second album is Chasing Summer by Sir. Okay, Chasing Summer by Sir. Now this is an album that I slept on the first time. I heard it. It came out last summer, ironically, and I remember listening to it and like not I don't know what was going on with Kayla back in 2019, but I was sleeping. I was sleeping. I will admit it. But I went back to it because I realized that I liked a lot of the singles off the album. So I'm like, why didn't I like this album again? And boy, I wore Chasing Summer out 2020, okay? I said, you know what? We can't go back to 2019, but we can listen to music from summer of 2019, and we're going to do that all 2020, okay? Chasing Summer is another album that is very just structurally and thematically sound. We're going on a journey, okay? There's a clear destination in mind when you're listening to Chasing Summer, okay? And I love to see it. I love to hear it, okay? I wore this album out. It's beautiful. Like I said, Sir's voice is just so good. He is like, when he's feeling pain, you're feeling pain. You know what I mean? And it's just a beautiful like story about someone who's kind of trying to figure life out, feeling kind of lost in relationships and life, going through ups and downs of this relationship. And it's just so good. Once again, no skips. Not a skip to be found. No weak links in the bunch. It is just quality top to bottom. Okay, so 2, Chasing Summer, check it out. Okay, third album is Now's album called Saturn. This album is a good time, okay? Now has such a unique voice. It's very light and airy at times, but she can do this thing where she can go from high to low, and it's just beautiful. It's like, what? The category is technicality. The category is range, okay? Sis is out here doing what the other girls ain't doing, okay? Saturn takes you to another planet, which is why it's probably called Saturn, because that's what I feel like when I listen to it. She just, her voice is just so beautiful. But the album, it has a combination of like slower songs, fast songs, but it's nothing like you ever heard before. It's nothing like you ever heard before. And like I said, Now's voice is just, it's like heaven. Heaven. If you could just, I could just take her voice and like put it in like a I don't even know, like a bottle or something, so I could just listen to it every day. Like, it's just that good. But I love that album. Sir's also featured on that album, so you know it slaps. Once again, no skips, like no weak links, just a good album. Amazing album. Get into Now right now. Okay? The next album I'm gonna say is Gumbo by PJ Morton. Now, if you don't know who PJ Morton is, what you doing? But just to like give you a rundown of who he is, he's the pianist for Maroon 5, aka the black guy in Maroon 5. Also, he is the son of legendary gospel singer Bishop Paul Morton. So for all my saints out there, you know he's coming from greatness, okay? But PJ is like, he gives me Stevie Wonder vibes. Like, it's like the music is inspirational, yet he can do a good love song, you know what I mean, where it's not too raunchy for my saints out there, you know, but it's also just beautiful. Like, it's the kind of music like you wish you was in love if you wasn't, or if you are in love you want to hug somebody a little bit tighter. Like, it's just, and it's also just really inspirational music. But all in all, the music is soul food. Hence why the name of the album is Gumbo, because that's what it feels like. You just had a pot of your grandma's gumbo. It makes you feel good inside, okay? And you know what's great about Gumbo? There's a live version of the album that is just as amazing. So if you're like me who loves going to concerts and you can't go to concerts right now because, you know, Rona, listen to that album because you're gonna love it. You're going to love it. Like I said, it's a good mix of like inspirational feel-good songs with, like, you know, love songs. It's just amazing. It has some great features on there. It's just good. It's a good album. If you just want to be happy and feel good about life and forget that you're in the year 2020, listen to Gumbo and Gumbo Live today, okay? Now, this last album is by an artist that we as the black community have come together and kind of canceled this human being, and rightfully so. However, when this album was made, this did not happen yet. So do with that information what you will. The album and person I'm referring to is Freudian by Daniel Caesar. Yeah. I have to mention this album because when we're talking about some of the best R&B that was made out of this new school of R&B, we gotta put them in the conversation. We have to. And now I'm referring to the first album, not the second album. The first album, where the one that gets you and Best Part is on. Okay, that album is amazing. It is just, that's the album where it is so timeless and classic that it's like this the type of album you listen to it, you remember where you were. You remember the times you listened to it in the car and you were singing at the top of your lungs. Like, that's the type of album it is. It's so classic that you will go back years from now. Like, remember Freudian? Remember when we were listening to Freudian? Like, that's how I feel. Like, when I listen to Freudian, I'm going back to when I was back in college, struggling, writing papers, studying. And Freudian was in the background, okay? It was in the background, okay? It was getting me through, okay? But it's just, I'm tired of using the word good, but I have to because there's no other adjective to really describe how amazing this album is. Like, it's just another album where there's literally no skips. Every time I listen to the whole thing. The background vocals are amazing. The songs make you want to cry. Like, that's bag music. Like, deep in your bag music, but it's beautiful. Okay, that man's voice is beautiful. But I love that album. It's just so timeless. Like I said, like, you can't listen to Freudian and say R&B is not good, or that it sounds like it's not as good as the 90s or whatever. Like, it's, girl, man, whoever out there in the interwebs, you know that Freudian is good. Like I said, if you just forget for the hour or 45 minutes, however long the album is, like Daniel Caesar said that stupidness last year, if you just forget for a second, you know, just for those 45 minutes, you can't make the music not bops. In the word of my favorite YouTuber, as told by Kenny, like, you just can't. It's just that good. I love it. I go back to it so much. It's beautiful, okay? But yeah, those are my 5 favorite albums. Those are the albums I go to every time, and it's my reminder and my rebuttal to those who say that R&B is not, like, R&B is not dead. It's here. It's here. It's alive. It's well. It's pulsating, okay? It's beautiful out here, okay? And here are some other artists. If you're still not convinced, I'm just gonna give you a quick 1-2 of some artists that I love, that are also amazing, but we don't have time. Baby Rose, Snow Allegra, okay, Black, Ari Lennox, BJ the Chicago Kid, Anderson .Paak, her, okay? Those people are amazing, made amazing projects. Get into it, get involved, put them on a playlist today, okay? And you know what's beautiful about all those names I just mentioned, and then, like, in addition to the albums I just named, none of those artists sound alike. Not one. None of them. Everyone has their own unique voice, own unique sound. Like, they're just out here doing the damn thing. And I love to see it, okay? I love to see it. I do. But yeah, that's really all I gotta say right now, okay? R&B is not dead. R&B is amazing right now. You get into it today, okay? Get into it today. And if you listen to those albums or listen to those artists I just named and still say that, I don't trust you, and you probably put your milk in before your cereal, so you're not to be trusted. No shade to those who do that, but I never understood why people do that. Like, why? Anywho, thank you for tuning into my video. I will definitely see y'all until the next one. Peace out.